Hi Verbling, my name's Michaela. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, and today we're talking about used to and would, discussing things in our past. And Rafa, welcome to class. Oh, we have two Rafas today. Rafa Smiley Face, welcome to class.
Okay, nice to meet you. It's the first time we do your class.
Excellent. Where are you from?
I'm from Spain.
Awesome. It's good to have you here. Yes. And because we have two Rafas, I'm going to call you Rafa Capital because you have capital letters. You wrote your name with capital letters. And then Rafa Lowercase, welcome to class.
Thank you, teacher.
Good to have you both here, Rafas. And Arena, welcome to class.
Yes. Thank you.
Arena, have I had you in class before?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. It's nice to meet you, Arena. Where are you from?
I am from Russia.
Awesome. Making our class a little more diverse. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
And Andre, how are you doing today?
I am doing fine. How have you been?
I'm doing really well. Still enjoying your cat picture. I'm a cat lover, and that picture is so cute.
Thank you.
And Javi, welcome to class.
Hello, Michael. How are you?
Good. How are you, Javi?
Not bad, thank you.
Awesome. Mostafa, welcome to class.
Hi, Michaela.
How's it going, Mostafa?
It's fine here.
Loud noise. Okay, so before we begin, I just want to make sure everyone knows while you're not talking, try to keep yourself muted so we don't get a bunch of background noise. But I'm going to screen share the notes so we can jump right in. Okay, so we're talking about used to and would today, discussing things in the past. Before we read all of the notes, has anyone covered this topic before? How about Andre? Any idea what exactly used to and would are used for?
Both of them are used for past, which was repeating for a while.
Uh-huh. Yes, excellent. So we're going to talk about how they're similar and how they're different. Okay, let's go. So number one, Arena, can you read the paragraph number 1 that tells us how it's similar?
Okay. Both used to and would can be used to describe repeated actions in the past. They are virtually interchangeable. They are often used to write. They are often used in writing or speaking to talk about the past. For example, when I was young, I used to go fishing. I used to have a cat. Oh, I can't see it.
You're having trouble seeing the rest?
Yeah, okay, I see it now. My grandfather would always smoke his pipe after dinner. People would get very angry when the tax collector came to town. In those days, people would draw water from the village well. When I was a child, I would wake up to the sound of bird singing. Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, do you guys have any questions so far? We had a lot of examples, and they're used pretty similarly. Good, that's a good start. So, Javi, I'm going to ask you to continue for us and read number 2 plus the example.
Okay, number 2. Neither used to nor would can be used to refer to single actions in the past. For example, it would not be possible to use either form in this sentence. In 1992, I moved from London to Leeds.
Thanks. Okay, so that's important. It's not just one event in the past, and I'm going to use this number to draw attention to how we conjugate when we use used to or would. When we use used to or would, we do not put the verb in the simple past tense, like with an ed. We use it in the simple present, but this phrase, used to or would, gives the sense of past. So everyone will know you're talking about the past because you have the ed here, and in the case of would, we don't need it. But we don't have to conjugate the main verb you're using in any past tense. All right, let's go on to number 3. This time, Mostafa, can you read for us?
Yeah, okay. Used to can also be used to describe past states with verbs such as be, have, and live. For example, I used to live in France. He used to have a beer. This building used to be a hotel.
Thanks. Okay, so now we have a note. This is where we're going to start to talk about how they're different. Would cannot normally be used in such sentences unless the state is repeated and qualified by an adverb such as often. And we'll talk more about that in a second. Number 5. Let's read a little bit about number 5. Rafa, lowercase. Can you read number 5 for us in the examples?
Used to cannot be used to refer to a specific restricted periods in the past. For example, in September 1991, I used to live in Paris. This sentence is incorrect and the past simple should be used. Perhaps the best practical advice to the questioner is that used to is generally correct when referring to repeated actions in the past and to past states, whereas good is sometimes inappropriate.
Okay, so that was a lot of info. Do you guys have any immediate questions before we discuss this a little bit more? So let's go back up here because I think this is number 3, and I know that this is kind of funny because it goes from number 3 to number 5, but we'll go with it. So number 3, I think, is one of the more difficult numbers to remember because you have to really keep vigilant about this. Each verb will be a little bit different. So used to can describe states in the past, and would cannot unless you use something like often. And I'll give you one example of this. So an example might be, I would feel sad every time I ate a banana. All right, kind of a funny sentence. But this is a good example because even though feeling sad is a state, not an action, because of the time phrase I use to modify every time I ate a banana, it's possible to use would. So right now we're going to make some example sentences of these. I want you guys first to make a sentence where you can use used to, but you can't use. So I'd like you guys to write one sentence where used to is the best phrase. You'll write the sentence using used to, and would is not possible. Do you guys have any questions on exactly what we're doing here? All right, you guys can have a minute or two to create your
For example,
sentences.
in 1982, I used to have a car.
Yes, exactly. That one is a little bit strange, and the reason is because of number 5. So that would be referring, you said in 1992, right? When we refer to restricted periods, we usually do not use used to or would. So a simple past sentence are there. But you could say and leave out that date and that number, and then that would be a fine sentence that we cannot use would with. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, so I want everyone to write one of these sentences and put it in the chat box when you're ready, if that's possible. And if anyone accesses the chat boxes for any reason, you can just speak up and say, hey, Michaela, can I read my sentence? And then that will be totally fine also. Awesome. We've got Rafa lowercase's sentence. I used to visit my mother last year, but I did not it anymore. Okay. So first we have one small problem is we're missing a verb, or there's a slight word order problem in the second part where it says I did not it anymore. Do you mean you didn't do it, or you didn't continue it or something?
I think I lost some words.
If you just add in the verb do,
Yeah.
then that makes a perfect sentence. So you could say, I used to visit my mother last year, but I did not, but I don't do it anymore. How about that in the present?
Yeah, better.
You don't?
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Now, this sentence, good. But we still have a little bit of an awkwardness to it because of the same thing that I just mentioned before about it being a specific time period. So it's a little bit awkward because it does have a specific time period. It's not the weirdest sentence, and it's acceptable. But it might even be better if we leave off last year. I used to visit my mother, but I don't do it anymore. Okay. Next sentence. He used to be the CEO of this company. So I would change the preposition to of instead of in. But other than that, it's excellent, and it's referring to a state, so we can't use would in the same spot. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
The next one I see. I used to have a bicycle to go to school. Yep, perfect. Thanks, Javier.
Okay.
People used to use black and white TV in the past. Excellent. That's a good sentence. I would make TVs plural because it's not just one and it's not even general. So make, TVs. Okay, make TVs plural. And that's an excellent sentence, although I think that use is kind of an active verb, so we probably could use would in the same situation. It's still a good sentence, it's just more versatile than the ones we were supposed to write. And the next one I see, in 1992, I used to have a car, but now I don't have it anymore. So we're missing the word it. I don't have it anymore. And get rid of that 1992. We can't use 1992 because it is a specific time period and it makes your sentence sound a little bit awkward. So you could just say, I used to have a car, but now I don't have it anymore.
Okay, I understand.
Okay. Maybe we have one in the Google chat box. Yes, we've got one in the Google chat box. I used to smoke a lot. Awesome. Great sentence. Simple but effective. And I still think that we probably could use would in the same spot because smoking is an action verb. So let's review a little bit what the difference is between action verbs and stative verbs. I'm going to ask everybody to give me one example of a verb that is almost always stative and two examples of a verb that is almost always active. And I'm going to start with Rafa, capital letters. So give me one stative verb and two dynamic or active verbs.
Sorry, I have lost now. I don't understand you very well. What did you say?
I'll put the exercise in the chat box as well, so you guys can read it there if you want. Okay, so I want everyone to give an example of a stative verb, which is a verb that describes state.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
If we say, instead of I used to smoke a lot, I used to be a heavy smoker, does it make any difference? If I say I used to be a heavy smoker.
I think there is a slight difference, but it's really a very artistic kind of difference. It's very, very subtle. So if you say I used to be a heavy smoker, that kind of means that it's part of you. You were this thing. It's kind of like saying that it was a big part of your personality. Versus if you say I used to smoke a lot or I used to smoke heavily, that means that you were always the same person, but at that time in your life you had a habit, like a very heavy habit or something. So there really is not a big difference between the two sentences, but it depends how artistic you want to be. A poet might tell you that there is a big difference, but in the practical way of everyday English, no, there's not a big difference.
Okay. So it is not a state.
Well, the verb to be is a state. So you made it a stative sentence, which is good for the exercise that we just did. But in general, the meaning doesn't really change much. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand that meaning hasn't changed. But in the new sentence, it is impossible to use a would, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. In the new sentence, it is impossible to use would. Perfect summary.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to continue giving examples of stative verbs, that is a verb that describes state, and two examples of active or dynamic verbs. And I'll start using the one that Andrew just gave us. He said to be. He used the verb to be, making that sentence stative. So to be is a stative verb. And running is an active verb. There's no way you can passively run. You have to actually do the activity. Antonio, welcome to class. Yes, exactly. Antonio, are you there? Perfect summary.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to continue giving examples of stative verbs. Oh. That is a verb that describes. Antonio, I muted you because we're hearing some feedback, some echo from your audio, which might mean that you have two verbling pages open, or maybe there's just an audio difficulty, but I'm going to keep you muted. Running is an active verb. There's no way you can passively run. You have to actually do the activity. Antonio. Antonio, are you there? Aye. Okay. This is okay. Sorry about that, Antonio. And if you're having any trouble, let us know in the chat box. Maybe we can help you resolve it. So let's continue talking about dynamic and stative verbs, which will help us to use these very useful phrases. Andre, can you give us one more stative verb and two more active verbs?
Feel is a state of verb. And two not stative. Yes?
And what? Two
One stative verb and two another.
active, dynamic verb.
Walk and beat.
Great examples. Thanks, Andre. Arena, would you like to give us one stative and two active?
Yes. I think is stative verb. Is it right? And go or do, active verbs.
Excellent. Great examples. Javi, you're up next. Give us one stative and two active verbs.
For example, two actives, I think maybe sing.
Yep, sing is an active verb.
And to read.
Good. Now, what is a passive verb or a stative verb?
Maintain.
Maintain, that's a good one. Okay, Mostafa, you're up next. Give us one passive or stative and then two active or dynamic verbs. Mostafa, you're muted. We can't hear you. Okay, we still can't hear you, so I'll come back to you, Mostafa. Rafa, with capital letters, which I guess now we just have one, can you give us one stative and two dynamic verbs?
For example, two dynamic could be swimming in the swimming pool,
Going or do.
reading, crying, for example, and
Great examples.
a state verb could be feel, to feel something.
That is a good stative verb. Great examples. Okay, so we have a short list of stative verbs. The stative verbs, I think, are trickier because you have to be a little more careful with them. These are also the same kind of verbs that we usually do not put into the gerund form. So we can, but usually not. You wouldn't say like, I'm being hungry. You'd say, I am hungry. So it's the same list of verbs that we have to be careful with when we're making ing statements. But of course, it also depends on the way you use them. Sometimes you can use these in the ing form, but anyways, that's it. It's a whole different class on that topic. So if you guys can remember the difference between these dynamic and stative verbs, then you probably won't have too big a problem with this concept of used to versus would. Now I want you guys to create a sentence like I created earlier. This one here. I would feel sad every time I ate a banana. So usually we cannot use would with a stative verb, but we can if we use this. We use a time modifying phrase, usually an adverb, like often. So what I'm saying here is that this state repeated many times. Every single time I ate a banana, the state of sadness was repeated. So this is a little trickier, but I'd like you guys to try it. Try using would with a state and an adverb. The adverb is the important part. That's what makes us able to use that would. Do you guys have any questions?
I would like to mention my example. I have just typed it. Okay? Can you hear me?
I can.
Hello? Maybe anybody there?
Yes.
I think the teacher is missing.
I think so.
She will be back soon. Arina, where are you from?
You asking me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm from Russia.
What is your city?
I am from Sakhalin. What about you?
I am from Russia as well. I am from Novosibirsk.
Oh, wow. Oh, nice to meet you.
Yeah,
I'm from Spain. Nice to meet you, both of you.
Oh,
Thank
nice to
you.
meet you. I've been to Spain. What is your city?
I live in the north of Spain in a city called Valencia with P, not with V.
Yeah,
Wow, cool.
I've been there. I've been to Valencia.
Not
I speak.
Valencia. In the north of Spain is Palencia with P, near
Oh,
the Cantabric Sea.
I see. I see. No, so I I, I mixed it. So,
Where place have you been in Spain? Which place? Which cities?
I've been to Barcelona, uh, Madrid, and a few more cities.
Wow.
Do you like it?
Yes, yo puedo hablar español un poco.
Very good.
Wow.
Yeah, I learned some Spanish before I went to your country. I love, I like the country. People are very friendly, and the language is beautiful.
I never been to Russia, but I would like. I have Russia in my list.
Okay, you are very welcome.
Thank you. I would
Yeah.
like to go to Moscow and to
Yeah.
St. Petersburg.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But they think it's expensive. It's very expensive.
Yeah, but it's worth to travel. Oh, our teacher is coming back.
Yeah, she's here.
Michaela, we've been waiting for you for ages.
I know. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. I think either my computer is being cranky or my internet is just being
Yeah,
mean
okay.
today. Okay, so sorry about the big wait. But I only see one sentence ready, so we'll go over this one. I would be happy when my friends came to see me. Excellent. Okay, so that means that you had a repeated state of your friends coming to see you in the past,
Yes.
and every
Yes.
time they came to see you, you would be happy.
Yes.
All right. I love your sentence, Andre. And Arena, what about your sentence?
My sentence is okay. I would think about my family every time I go Christmas shopping.
Perfect. Excellent. Thanks, Arena. Mustafa, how about you?
I have type 2 statement about stative verbs as well as active verbs.
Awesome.
So for stative verbs, I think some scientists are innovative.
Okay. So the verb to be is definitely a stative verb. And what's your active verb sentence?
Teenagers spend much time on watching television.
Okay, good. So spend frequently can be an active verb. Now, how can we use one of those with our phrase would, talking about something in the past, using an adverb to modify the time? So add would to one of those sentences and an adverb to modify time. Like, for instance, Andrew's sentence where we have, I would be happy. We use would to talk about something that happened regularly in the past. Be, which is a stative verb. And then to justify that stative verb, we have the modifier, when my friends came to see me. Or in Arena's sentence, she said, I think every time we went Christmas shopping, or I went Christmas shopping. So they're saying that a repeated action happened, and they use would with a stative verb. Do you think you could change one of those sentences to use would?
I will try with active verbs.
Okay, go ahead and try it and stick it in the chat box when you're ready. And in the meantime, Rafa, capital Rafa.
I would feel sad when you leave.
Okay, so first off, let's change leave to left because we're talking about something that continuously happened in the past. So we'll make that left. And that works really well as long as the situation is that that person left and came back and left and came back and left and came back. Right?
Okay.
Okay. Awesome. And Aldona, welcome to class.
Hello, teacher. And here's my sentence.
Excellent. You're already ready. I would be delighted if you could see me. Interesting. So your sentence is a really good sentence. It's perfect, but it's a little bit different than what we've been talking about until now. But it's an important topic to talk about, so I'm glad you wrote it. That is a little different because would is used in many different senses, and today we're talking about using it to talk about things that happened continuously in the past. But the sentence you gave us is a little bit of a different situation. Andre, do you think you could explain the way that she used would in the sentence she wrote?
Yeah. I think, Aldona, if you meant that this action about person who saw you continued regularly, so you would use it.
Yeah, so this is even more complex than we've been talking about until now because would is also commonly used with conditionals, which is what we see in Aldona's sentence. She said, I would be delighted if you could see me. And that combination of would and if is a clear signal that it is conditional. And it is a beautiful conditional sentence. So I appreciate it, Aldona. And have you been watching a little bit of what we've been talking about in class so far?
I've been reading your comments.
Excellent. So, if you look at the notes, which I put in the chat box in the very beginning, so you can open the notes in the chat box, or you can follow along with us and read a little more about using would to talk about the past. And Ken, welcome to class.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, Ken. Since you've just joined class, tell us what you already know about would and used to in the past, using those expressions to talk about the past.
I used to go to. I used to go there, kind of past habit, and I would go there. I don't know. I would go there. It's like sounds like a conditional, but I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like a conditional because that's how we frequently see would used, but we can also use it like used to. So it works very well to talk about repeated actions in the past, but it's a little bit more difficult to use than used to because we have to be careful with using would plus stative verbs. So a good example of a time when we cannot use would plus a stative verb would be if you say something like, I would have a car when I was young or something. I would feel sad. I would feel sad. So in that case, it does sound conditional, which is why we can't really use it unless we add a qualifying adverb about time, like I would feel sad in the afternoons, meaning that every repeated afternoon, that's when I would experience the emotion.
Let's see.
Okay. And you'll get a lot more details if you read through those notes. And we have a couple more sentences to talk about. So we've got a couple more in the chat box. The first one I see is, I would be delighted when you came to see me.
It was correction for Aldona.
Right.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, welcome.
All right, and the next one, I would feel curious to know the real meaning of any quote whenever someone quoted it. All right, so first, make sure we use quoted since we're talking about the past. And yeah, that's a good sentence. Thanks, Mustafa. And the next one I see from Aldona, I would have my hair done properly every time I visited a good hairdresser. Yes, I love it. Great job. All right, so we're going to get a little more practice by filling in these blanks. Now, every time we do one of these, I want you guys to let me know exactly what you're thinking. So if you use used to, tell me if we can also use would, or if we can't, and why. So you need to discuss both used to and would every time you answer. Tell me which ones are possible and which ones are not. And let's start with capital letter Rafa. Oops. All right, Rafa, you got to go? See you later, Rafa. You're muted, but I appreciated you coming. See you again soon. Then Mustafa, it's down to you. Will you do number 1 for us and tell us if used to or would is appropriate and why?
Okay. Do you remember how your Uncle David would sit in that chair and smoke those disgusting cigarettes? I think it will be would.
Okay, so would is a possibility. Why is it a possibility? So why, Mustafa? Why is would a possibility?
I think also used to be can be appropriate also as well.
Yes, both of them are possible in this situation. Why,
Yeah.
Mustafa?
Because it describes repeated events in the past.
And sit most of the time is a dynamic verb, although sometimes it can be considered stative. Okay, Arena, will you do number 2 for us?
Okay. Your mother used to have your career when she was a young girl, didn't she?
Thanks. And can we use would in this one?
I don't think we can use would. Your mother would have. No, I don't think we can.
Why not?
Because it doesn't sound right. Because I think have is stating verb. So
usually stative.
So we. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think we can use would, but I don't know why. Well, I guess because. Oh, I don't know. Your mother used to have. I don't know. It just doesn't fit in there.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't work. And you're also right that it doesn't work because we have the verb have here being used as a stative verb. Now, frequently have is a stative verb. In its most common definition, like to possess, it's stative. The only time it's not a stative verb is if you use it for something like have lunch. You can say, I'm having lunch right now. So if it were something that implies an action, then it is not stative, but most of the time it is stative. Yeah. Now, we have a modifier, this time modifier, when she was a girl. So that was something we practiced. You can use would as long as we have like a time modifier, but it has to be a time modifier that gives us multiple situations, like every day or frequently, often. And this one doesn't. This one gives us a time period, which we know is like a no-no, right? So can only use used to. Thank you very much. Next up, number 3. Let's have Andre try number 3 for us.
For years, they used to go on holiday to the Rockies, but then it became very fashionable and expensive.
All right, used to work well.
I think we can use both, and used to and would. Both we have a dynamic verb.
Yep. Excellent. Thank you very much, Andre. Aldona, your turn. Try number 4.
Okay. Years ago, I used to write a diary every day, but then I got bored with doing it, and I stopped. Maybe it was my life that was boring.
All right, so used to works well. What about would? Does would work in this position also?
Where the action is repetitive. It's repeated, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would keep this used to.
Okay, so used to works really well, but we can also use would here. Both are possible in this situation because write is an active, dynamic verb. So you can write every day or not. You can do it again and then stop. But we can't use would with verbs like to have, to feel, to be, because those are stative verbs where there's not much action in them. So like to have a pencil, say, I don't have to do anything. I possess it. It's mine. Even though I'm not actually moving, I can just sit here and I still own my computer, even if I'm not actively doing anything to my computer. I still just own it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks very much, Aldona. And going back to Rafa. Rafa, are you still here or are you gone? Sounds like you're gone. All right then, Mostafa, we're on to you for number 5.
At the start of their marriage, they used to be very happy, but then it all went wrong. I think it will be used to.
Can we use would in this position as well?
No, I didn't think so, because I think used to be for stative verbs.
Yes, we have a stative verb here, so would is not possible. Thanks, Mostafa. Arena, number 6.
Okay. You used to spell so well. Whatever happened? Whatever happened? Okay. I don't know if we can use would here. You would spell so well. I guess we could.
Yeah, this one's tough. I agree that used to is a lot better in this position. I think would does not really work here. And I know that's strange because spelling is an action.
Yeah.
But when we're not talking about spelling anything in particular, but we're kind of talking about the ability to spell. So that sort of is stative, like either you're able to spell or you're not able to spell. It's a talent you have, not necessarily some action that you have to do. It's just something you have within your personality. So I would say that would does not work really well here, even though spelling in general is considered an active verb. So this is kind of an interesting situation. Thanks for trying that out for us, Arena. And Andre, can you do number 7?
When I was 5, I used to be able to do incredible gymnastics. Now I can't even touch my toes. We can use the would here because we mentioned the time when I was able to do. So when I was 5, during 1 year, I was able. So it is kind of reuse.
So you're saying that used to and would are possible?
Yes, I think so.
Used to is the best answer here, and would is not really possible because even though we have this time modification, it is not the kind of time modification we need for would. So you're on the right track that to be able to is stative, meaning that used to is best with stative verbs, And even though we can modify in order to use would, we don't have that modification here because when I was 5 is like one time. It's not a repeated time. So we can only use would plus a stative verb if the time modification is repeated, like every day, every afternoon, frequently, often. So that would be like time on and time off, like every Tuesday, or so there would be like repeated time periods of this stative thing. And because when I was 5 is not a repeated thing, it's you were only 5 once, right? You can't be 5 twice. So in that case, we cannot use would. Does that make sense? I know this is really
Yes,
complex.
I understood because when I was 5, it is also stative.
Mm-hmm.
It
Also
is not
stative.
that many.
All
Okay.
right. Okay, and number 8, our last one here, is for Aldona. Can you read number 8 and try to fit those two in the blank?
Yes, before getting my driving license, I would ride a bicycle everywhere.
Awesome. Would works really well. Can we use used to here as well?
No, I don't think so, because
Why
right,
not?
it's not a stative verb.
True. True. It's not a stative verb. So you're totally right that would is perfect for this situation, but we actually can use used to for both. Used to is really versatile. We can use it with stative or active verbs, and would is a lot more particular. We usually cannot use would with stative verbs. So in this case, both are possible. Thanks, Aldona. And Ken, you're back.
Yeah, sorry. So I got a sudden call, so.
Ah, no problem. We were just going over these sentences, and let's do a little bit of review just to make sure that all of this is sticking. I'm going to ask a couple people to give me some information about how we use used to and would, starting with Mostafa. Give me one tip on how to use used to or would.
I think used to is used to describe repeated events in the past.
Arena, any more information you can add to that about how we use used to and would?
I think with stative verbs we usually use would, and with active verbs we usually use used to, I think.
Switch it. Opposite.
Oh,
Close,
I'm
but not-
sorry.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the idea
Yeah.
you're talking about is correct. So it's specific where used to, you can use used to with almost any verb as long as we're not using a specific time period like in 1992.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We can use used to with both, but would cannot be used with both. It's almost always used with active or dynamic verbs.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Andre, is there anything else you want to add to all that info before we move on?
I think no.
All right. So we don't have much time left, which is a bummer because I had one more exercise I wanted to do, and maybe we'll get to do part of it. So I'd like you guys to write sentences, write a couple sentences, put them in the chat box, and you can choose whether you make one that's correct or incorrect. And as we get these sentences, we're going to talk about them. So if you want to try to be tricky and make a complex sentence and put in an error, it's going to be our job later to correct that error. So I'd like everyone to try at least one sentence. You can either make it a correct sentence or an incorrect sentence. And then we're going to go back and judge whether these sentences are correct and why, or incorrect and why. So try to make them tricky. Try to make them complex. Cool, we've got one ready. I would be surprised when my friends used to make a surprise for me. So, let's ask Ken. Do you think his sentence is correct or incorrect, and why?
I would be surprised when my friends used to make a surprise for me. My friends used. Sounds like I'm not sure. Friends used to make. When my friends made a surprise for me.
Yes, it would make a little more sense when we say, when my friends made a surprise for me.
Hmm.
And honestly, that one's kind of funny because it uses both would and used to.
Yeah, I made it incorrect deliberately.
Awesome. Yeah, it's an interesting sentence because it would make a little more sense if we do not use used to in that modifying thing. But it's just it's fun because it's really complex. Thank you for your sentence, Andrew.
It is a tricky one.
Yeah, it's a really tricky one. All right, so if you guys have any other sentences, try to get them in now because we only have 1 more minute. Probably not even that much. Probably like, 30 seconds or something. Otherwise, do you guys have any other questions or comments before we finish up?
No.
Awesome. We've got one last sentence I see here. I used to jog, but I'm walking as my exercise. Arena, do you think that's a correct sentence or not?
I think it's correct sentence. Well, I used to jog. Yeah, it sounds just right.
Yeah, I like this sentence. It's a good sentence. Although I do think we're missing one word. I think it would sound a little better if you used the word now in the second part, just to make a better distinction between I used to jog in the past, but now I walk as my exercise. That would make just a more clear comparison about before and then now.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for coming and participating, and I have another class starting right now about survival techniques. It should be a lot of fun. We're going to be doing some discussion and conversation as well as some vocabulary. So I'll see you guys all another time. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Right.
Bye.